You're a positive person.
I'm a positive person. Life is good, but the test is negative.
And she fucking hated the Tonight Show, but loved David Letterman. And I'm like, why? I go, why is it? And she goes,
I think you always want to hear, yeah, this one came up negative.
yeah, how come no diseases ever make us better? It's because I don't want you bullshitting me. She goes, I know, like, he's in on it. Well, if you give people power and you don't have anybody standing over them that tells them what to do, and especially if you're doing something in secret, right? Like David Letterman's in on it.
Yeah.
Like the other ones are just bullshitting you. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
If you're doing things in secret, did you ever hear that famous Kennedy speech about secret societies? It's really interesting.
I don't think I have.
Those who foolishly sought power by riding the back of the tiger ended up inside.
Kind of, goofing on the network. Right?
Yes.
Taking the fruit basket.
It's really interesting because he was struggling with the CIA and a bunch of other secret sort of institutions and government back then.
We observe today not a victory of party, but a celebration of freedom.
Basket over to the security guard at GE, to, messing with them, getting in trouble. His boss, it's like, are you biting the hand that feeds you here? But
and secret societies, and he was talking about how abhorrent it is to withhold information, how dangerous it is.
Symbolizing an end as well as a beginning, signifying renewal as well as change.
I mean, the risk that he took to do that was like real. You never saw that on TV before. Everything was.
And he was the guy who broke Jay Leno. But this is sort of one of the reasons why it makes sense. Like, if you give people the power, just experiment on these young kids.
For I have sworn before you and Almighty God the same solemn oath our forebears prescribed nearly a century and 3/4 ago.
And even though you're saying the words right, people aren't laughing because they're not connected to you. Just dose them up with acid. Let's experiment on prisoners. Let's just go to these prisoners.
The world is very different now, for man holds in his mortal hands the power to abolish all forms of human poverty.
You're not connected to the joke. They're not connected to you. So there's some weird shit going on. It's not just the words. Look at this guy. He's been in jail for 12 years. He's a fucking loser. Let's just give him acid.
Let's see what happens.
See if we can talk him into believing he's Jesus.
With no recovery program.
And all forms of human life.
There's some weird shit going on. There's an understanding of your authenticity that people either have or they don't have.
To the power of persuasion.
You ever read his stuff?
No,
You need to read his stuff.
Okay.
Because
is it like Harry Potter?
It's all first draft.
And yet the same revolutionary beliefs for which our forebears fought are still at issue around the globe.
And if you don't feel authentic, they're like, you get a certain amount of people that'll pay attention. But after a while, you're going to lose them. There's never a second draft. It's the most nonsense.
And narcissistic.
Right? But it's bonkers.
The belief that the rights of man come not from the generosity of the state, but from the hand of God.
Because they know they're not, and everybody's trying to be locked in. Everybody's trying to be authentic. Everybody's trying to be authentic. If you're not a sociopath, you're trying to be authentic. Has anybody ever done a cult right? Anybody?
Well, what's doing a cult right? How would you...
We dare not forget today that we are the heirs of that first revolution.
Right, You're trying to be better than who you were yesterday. You're trying, because we all realize that this is a complicated game and no one's great at it. Everyone's fucking up.
What would the Joe Rogan cult look like?
You can't. Well, the problem is, then you die and someone else takes over and they fuck it up. That's what happens with every good empire.
Let the word go forth from this time and place to friend and foe alike.
The game of life is a mess, right? So it's a war zone. So you're trying to get better. Even if you figure it out the first time, if you get it right, someone dies, the new guy comes along, ruins everything.
That the torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans.
And so you want to pay attention to other people that are trying to get better, and people that are legitimately tuned in, people that are legitimately sensitive.
Would you have people drink the punch?
No, it'd be too much work to run a
it's
cult.
a lot.
Born in this century, tempered by war.
People that are legitimately expressing themselves in an honest way, It's very nourishing because it makes you realize it's possible. It's too much work, but I'm saying it's amazing that no one, like the last one to come up with a good one was like Scientology, right? That's the last one that stuck.
Disciplined by a hard and bitter peace, proud of our ancient heritage.
These moments of intuition, these moments of inspiration, of observation, of the 20th L. Ron
Hubbard, yeah.
20th science fiction author, by the way. And
fucking
really,
genius.
really bad science fiction author.
And unwilling to witness or permit the slow undoing of those human rights.
Sometimes you have the ability to express a thought that you didn't have yesterday. Like a thought will come into your head and you'll be able to express it to people. I think he thinks he gets his own planet when he dies. Or is that a Mormon? That's a Mormon, right? Mormons get their own planet.
They do?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Dude.
To which this nation has always been committed, and to which we are committed today at home and around the world.
And then they say it, and then they'll say it back to you, and you start talking. There's a fucking album from Johnny and Marie, or the Osmond Brothers. It's from the Osmond Brothers.
Let every nation know.
And you realize, like, oh, you just popped into something. You just, this is it. It's right there. I found something. The album, the name of the album is the name of this thing that happens when you get your own planet.
Whether it wishes us well or ill.
I found something about myself, and I found something maybe you could relate to. And then other people listen and go, oh, when you die, and then there's all these different people, they all have their own planet inside the album.
Okay, we need to know that album title.
Here.
That we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship.
And if they know you really did find something, they know you're not bullshitting, they listen to it and they go, is he right? Here it is. The plan.
Okay, that looks like
Is that it?
a cult.
Support any friend, oppose any foe.
Maybe he's not. Maybe I think differently. And then they can maybe think their own. And then all this shit branches off from that. People want something that guides them in a positive direction. If they think it's going to be Tony Robbins.
To assure the survival and the success of liberty. United, there is little we cannot do.
But it's, as long as you're authentic. You can be wrong. We're all going to be wrong. Or if they think it's going to be Scientology, they're trying to do better, right? So if you say, well, Scientology really helped my life. It did.
In a host of cooperative ventures. Divided, there is little we can do.
But are you authentic? That's what everybody really wants. People say they want honesty. They certainly want honesty. But why did it help your life? It helped your life because you decided to focus on doing better in your life.
And to remember that in the past, those who foolishly sought power.
But honest and stupid and unaware, that's not helping anybody. You want authentic. And you use the tenets of Scientology, which some of them are really good.
Yeah.
I read Dianetics, or at least I read like a couple of chapters.
By riding the back of the tiger, ended up inside.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why we love doing this, right?
Yes.
It's like religion. There are aspects of it that you can apply to your life and
Some of it's
benefit
positive.
from it. But then there's
Look how focused Tom Cruise is.
tribal.
To those people in the huts and villages of half the globe, struggling to break the bonds of mass misery, we pledge our best efforts to help them help themselves.
The system itself is beyond individual decisions. You know, it's a self-sustaining system.
To those nations who would make themselves our adversary,
It won't come up with ideas or support ideas that threaten it. And that's why I continually keep hearing, and I'm sure you're having similar conversations.
we offer not a pledge, but a request that both sides begin anew the quest for peace.
But if you are really interested in changing the world, you have to participate in systems that are outside of it. Set up new ideas. Don't worry about trying to smash this one.
Before the dark powers of destruction, unleashed by science, engulf all humanity.
Down with a hammer,
right.
it will atrophy on its own as it becomes less and less relevant.
I think also change yourself.
in planned or accidental self-destruction.
And when you change yourself, it becomes evident to the people around you. And if your change is beneficial and attractive,
So let us begin anew, remembering on both sides that civility is not a sign of weakness.
people, they gravitate towards that idea that you can improve yourself and you can...
And sincerity is always subject to proof. Let us never negotiate out of fear.
You change your perspective on things.
Well, that is the one area of your life where you've got some authority and control.
But let us never fear to negotiate.
We have latent qualities within us that are sometimes hard to realise on without support.
In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role.
If you find a mentor in an area where you're looking to improve, they can kind of energise, awaken.
Of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger.
Energies within you that on your own you wouldn't be able to use.
I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it.
We have access to oneness, and that should be what's influencing the way we set up our tribes, our systems, and our relationships.
I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation.
Yeah, and I think when a guy like Kevin Hart shows you what a positive and motivational
The energy, the faith, the devotion.
impact one person can have just with his words and his deeds and the way he lives his life,
Which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it.
he's so inspirational that you realize that is possible.
And the glow from that fire can truly light the world.
That you can share that energy and that you can have these experiences.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you.
With people where they literally they actually uplift you. Like I was uplifted by his conversation. I felt like, wow.
Ask what you can do for your country.
Wow, that guy is so positive. What a great way to look at the life that we're living. And the more people do that, the better.
My fellow citizens of the world,
What he's spreading is this very motivational, very positive message.
ask not what America will do for you.
And that affects people in a very positive way too. And all that left-right shit and all this, all the battle.
But what together we can do for the freedom of man.
At the end of the day, this is not benefiting anyone unless you're fighting a major demon that the world needs to conquer.
Our greatest challenge is still the world that lies beyond the Cold War.
When you talk about what you have to offer, what you have to offer is that you are you, that you have this unique perspective.
But the first great obstacle is still our relations with the Soviet Union and Communist China.
You can affect the way people view their own journey in life because you've been so introspective.
We must never be lulled into believing that either power has yielded its ambitions for world domination.
And so aware of your own pros and cons in terms of your past behavior, your current
Ambitions which they forcefully restated only a short time ago. On the contrary, our task is to convince them
behavior and who you are now and who you used to be. All that stuff is fuel for people because they can relate, they hear it.
that aggression and subversion will not be profitable routes to pursue these ends.
They can relate to the humanity of your struggle. They put themselves in your position, like what must that have been like?
Open and peaceful competition for prestige, for markets, for scientific achievement.
And look at this guy who's made these conscious decisions to not be like that anymore.
Even for men's minds is something else again.
I think it's some sort of a chemical gateway. That's what I think. I think there's a gateway in your mind that can lead to...
For if freedom and communism would compete for man's allegiance.
Some other dimension that's probably there all the time.
If there is a omnipresent, continually existing
In a world at peace, I would look to the future with ever increasing confidence.
realm that human beings aren't accessing because of the particular biochemical formulation of consciousness.
On the presidential coat of arms, the American eagle holds in his right talon the olive branch, while in his left he holds a bundle of arrows.
As it is in this point in our evolution,
Yeah.
and that we can get there.
We intend to give equal attention to both.
And when he talks about them beings, you know, like that he describes as self-dribbling basketballs.
We must increase our support of the United Nations as an instrument to end the Cold War instead of an arena in which to fight it.
Creating like Fabergé egg, like, you know, devices through vibration, and
I
they're
didn't
telling
see
you
it.
to do it.
I never saw
I
that.
would.
In recognition of its increasing importance and the doubling of its membership, we are enlarging and strengthening our own mission to the UN.
I want
He's
that.
called them machine elves. He's called them all sorts of different things.
We shall help ensure that it is properly financed.
The way I've described them is they're the geometric patterns made out of love and understanding. That's
So-
what they seem like.
We shall work to see that the integrity of the office of the Secretary General is maintained.
So you can look at a geometrical pattern and read meaning into it. It had an emotional quality.
They're made out of something.
Life in 1961 will not be easy.
And they move, they change. Like, they don't stay what they are. They're constantly evolving in front of you into something more and more beautiful.
Wishing it, predicting it, even asking for it will not make it so.
It's
And
very weird.
What did it make you feel?
Like I knew nothing.
There will be further setbacks before the tide is turned, but turn it we must. The hopes of all mankind rest upon us.
That was the most profound aspect. Like, all of this stuff that you concentrate on every day is nonsense.
Not simply upon those of us in this chamber, but upon the peasant in Laos, the fisherman in Nigeria, the exile from Cuba.
And there is some other thing that's connected, that's probably influencing this world.
The spirit that moves every man and nation.
Yeah.
And it's probably what people see when they have near-death experiences, the depictions of the afterlife.
Who shares our hope for freedom and the future.
And religious experiences,
Yeah.
when prophets are talking about, oh my God, I went into this realm,
Sure.
there's these beings, they've told me we're all one.
And in the final analysis, they rest most of all.
We
Well,
have to love each other.
Scholars in Jerusalem are connecting Moses' experience with the burning bush to the acacia tree.
Upon the pride and perseverance of our fellow citizens of the great republic.
The acacia tree, which is rich in DMT. The burning bush is what God was to Moses.
In the words of a great president, whose birthday we honor today, closing his final State of the Union message 16 years ago.
And that through this burning bush, he came out with these 10 commandments of how people should live their lives. I mean, that easily could have been.
We pray that we may be worthy of the unlimited opportunities that God has given us.
Just a very convoluted sort of translation of a DMT trip.
Certainly there are archetypal images that seem to be repeated throughout ancient cultures and archaic stories that seem to refer to.
I have today signed an executive order providing for the establishment of a Peace Corps on a temporary pilot basis.
The potential for plant experiences to affect consciousness.
This corps will be a pool of trained men and women sent overseas by the United States government or through private institutions and organizations to help foreign countries meet their urgent needs for skilled manpower.
Even the Garden of Eden, do
Yeah.
not eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge, that
Yeah.
otherwise you will become as gods.
We will send Americans abroad who are qualified to do a job. We're going to put particular emphasis on those men and women who have skills in teaching, agriculture, and in health.
You know, like I sense that. Now, if
I'm hopeful that it will be a source of satisfaction to Americans and a contribution to world peace.
there is some realm that we can reach through that experience,
Dag Hammarskjöld is dead.
So let us here resolve
that puts into perspective everything that else we experience on the material realm.
that Dag Hammarskjöld did not live or die in vain.
And that thing seems to, in your words, be emanating love and understanding while ever changing.
Let us call a truce to terror. However difficult it may be to fill Mr. Hammarskjöld's place, it can better be filled by one man rather than by three.
Completely formless and communicating love and understanding.
Even the three horses of the Troika did not have three drivers, all going in different directions.
I can't help but think that that should become our priority, to have a relationship with that realm.
To permit each great power to decide its own case would entrench the Cold War in the headquarters of peace.
And to bring about that experience, I don't even mean in a literal way.
Whatever advantages such a plan may hold out to my own country, as one of the great powers, we reject it.
Because even Terence McKenna said there are some people, vulnerable souls, he was probably referring to people like me, that probably shouldn't mess around with that kind of stuff.
Every man, woman, and child lives under a nuclear sword of Damocles.
He's really talking about people with schizophrenia, or people that, which he believed he had, by the way.
Did he?
Hanging by the slenderest of threads.
He had some very unique perspectives on schizophrenia and the way people interact with the world itself.
Capable of being cut at any moment by accident or miscalculation or by madness.
I think if we lived in a healthy world, a healthy civilization that had a healthy relationship with psychoactive substances,
the weapons of war must be abolished before they abolish us.